Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So today, payments of up to $914 are going out to certain Social Security beneficiaries. We're going to be going over who those people are, as well as the rest of the payment schedule in the month of June. Additionally, with the June 5th deadline to raise the debt ceiling and avoid a U.S. default on our debts, which of course would cause major economic consequences and possibly the delay of Social Security payments. A major hurdle was cleared yesterday with a bill passing the House, so we're going to be discussing that bill and where it goes from here and if we can beat the June 5th deadline. But before I go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so again, the first step in raising the debt ceiling happened yesterday with that bill passing the House, which would at least suspend raising the debt ceiling until a couple more years. So we would not default on our debts if we're able to get this passed through Congress, which the next step, of course, is going to be sending this bill onto the Senate. Then once it passes the Senate, again in the Senate, it will need at least 60 votes to pass. Then it will get sent on to President Biden's desk to be signed into law. Now, all this needs to happen before Monday, because on Monday is June 5th. That is the date right now in which the Treasury Secretary and Janet Yellen is saying that we will default on our debts. So this all needs to happen within the next 4 days. The Senate Majority Leader and the Senate Minority Leader and Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell need to make sure they get enough votes. And right now it looks like they will. Of course, there are some senators saying they will already vote against the bill. Now, in the House yesterday, again, they did pass the bill. It had a lot of bipartisan support, actually. It had over 300 votes in total. They only needed 218 votes to clear this bill, but they got well over 300. And actually, there were more Democrats voting in favor of the bill than Republicans, which had a lot of people wondering, like, isn't this a bill that was more favorable towards Republicans? I mean, it was Kevin McCarthy who got all those concessions from Joe Biden and the Democrats. Democrats wanted to raise the debt ceiling and not cut any federal spending, but McCarthy was able to get all those concessions. He was able to cut a lot of federal spending, yet we had more Democrats actually voting for the bill in the House than we had Republicans. So according to CNBC, debt ceiling bill passes in the House, advances to the Senate days ahead of default deadline. So a bill to raise the debt limit and cap government spending passed in the House by a wide margin late Wednesday, sending the bill to the Senate just days before Monday's U.S. default deadline. The Fiscal Responsibility Act passed 314 to 117 with support from both Democrats and Republicans. It was a dramatic conclusion to weeks of tense negotiations between the White House and Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Yet, amid the celebration, some Republicans were left fuming. Quote, "The disastrous debt ceiling deal just passed with more Democrat votes than Republican votes," said GOP Representative Andrew Clyde of Georgia, an outspoken opponent of the bill. "Tells you everything you need to know," he said, calling the bill shameful in a tweet late on Wednesday. The fact that McCarthy's bill passed with 165 Democratic votes, yet only 149 from Republicans, came as a surprise to many. That drama now moves to the Democrat-controlled Senate, where leaders on both sides wanted to pass in 48 hours. Late Wednesday night, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer stood up in a nearly empty Senate chamber to formally place the bill on the calendar for Thursday. He said, quote, "There's been a very good vote in the House. I hope we can move the bill quickly here in the Senate and bring it to the president's desk as soon as possible." So again, had over 300 votes, which a lot of bipartisan support. But again, it was a surprise to many that more Democrats actually voted to raise the debt ceiling and make sure that we avoid a government default than we had Republicans, even though it was the Republicans and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy that was able to get all those concessions from President Joe Biden. So again, it's going to move on to the Senate. It's possible that they could pass the bill as early as today on Thursday, but there's going to be a lot of lawmakers perhaps on both sides of the aisle who try to use certain procedural methods to drag this thing out and make sure that a vote doesn't actually happen on it until maybe later on this weekend. But again, we're going to have to pass it by Sunday. We cannot drag this out until Monday, because Monday is that June 5th deadline. It's going to be that date in which we will default on our debts, at least according to the Treasury Secretary and Janet Yellen. Now, like I mentioned, there are some lawmakers on both sides of the aisle who are going to vote no on this bill. At the end of the day, they should have at least 60 votes, more than likely, probably more than 70 who vote in favor of the bill. But again, we do have a lot of lawmakers in the Senate saying they are going to vote no, and one of those lawmakers happens to be Bernie Sanders. So according to the Business Insider, Bernie Sanders vows to vote against Biden and McCarthy's totally unnecessary debt ceiling deal, saying that the best thing about the bill is it could have been much worse. So Bernie Sanders said that deficit reduction cannot just be about cutting programs that working families, the children, the sick, the elderly, and the poor depend upon. It must be about demanding that the billionaire class and profitable corporations pay their fair share of taxes, reining in out-of-control military spending, reducing the price of prescription drugs, and ending billions of dollars in corporate welfare that goes to the fossil fuel industry and other corporate interests. Sanders mentioned that the work requirements on SNAP and the elimination of the student loan payment pause as primary reasons why he cannot support the bill, even with the U.S. set to default on its debt as early as June 5th. Still, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell are urging their colleagues to pass the bill in the Senate. So Bernie Sanders says he's going to vote no on the bill, even though we could potentially default on our debts by voting no, because he cannot support the new work requirements in order to receive SNAP benefits. Those work requirements are going to be for those aged between 50 and 54. They'll now have to work at least 20 hours per week unless they're veterans, unless they're homeless, and of course there are some other exceptions to that as well. But again, they should have at least 60 votes that they need in the Senate, even with Bernie Sanders and a few other lawmakers who are already saying they're going to vote no on this bill whenever it comes to a vote, probably sometime this weekend, maybe Saturday or Sunday. Now, today there are actually going to be some more payments going out to certain beneficiaries of Social Security. So those payments are going to be worth up to $914 for single individuals. That is going to be the max payment, and then it is going to be a little bit more for couples. So according to the Washington Examiner, recipients will receive the first of 2 checks from the Supplemental Security Income Program worth up to $914 for individual filers in one day. Now that day is actually today on June 1st. So the payment, which will be sent out on June 1st, is the first of 2 checks that will arrive in June. The second falls on Friday, June 30th, because July 1st is on a weekend. So let's go ahead and pull up the payment schedule here for June. So again, June 1st, recipients of SSI are going to be receiving the first of 2 payments this month. Again, the second payment is going to be on June 30th. Now, the June 30th payment is simply just your July payment. It's not like you're getting some type of bonus payment for this. It's just because July 1st happens to fall on a weekend, and whenever the first of a month falls on a weekend or a holiday, you're receiving your payment one day earlier. That's why you're going to be receiving 2 payments in June, with the second payment being on June 30th. Now, there's going to be some more payments actually going out tomorrow on the 2nd. Those are going to be going to those who received Social Security before May of 1997, or if you're receiving both Social Security and SSI, you're going to be receiving your payment tomorrow on the 2nd. Those usually actually go out on the 3rd, but the 3rd falls on a Saturday, so you're just going to be receiving that payment one day earlier. Now, there's going to be 3 more payments going after that, so it's going to be on the June 14th, June 21st, and June 28th. The 14th payments are going to be going out to those with birthdays between the 1st and the 10th of any given month. The payments going out on June 21st are going to be going to those with birthdays falling between the 11th and 20th of any given month. And then on June 28th, those payments are going to be going to those with birthdays falling between the 21st and the 31st of any given month. And then again on June 30th, that's just going to be the second payment for SSI recipients. But that's all the news that we have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.